Hi on? Okay, thank you guys. Wow. Well, happy Easter. How are you? Good to see you. It's so good to see all of you here. Some I haven't seen for a while. It's kind of like the Catholic Church, right? There were certain holidays. That's the only time you'd see them. And for my sister, who we were raised Catholic, I bet you never saw so much action. The only action we had in Catholic Church was peace be with you. Have they changed that since then? Oh, you fist bump now. Oh, since no. She's snarkier than me, just so you know. It runs in our family. Anyway, so happy Easter, everybody. So the three of us are going to be speaking. Mine is going to be a little short. I had a little rough week this week, but I'm fine. But anyway, I just want you to know there'll be the three of us speaking. They'll make up for it, for whatever I leave out. So I thought, having been raised Catholic, and most of us may have come from a Christian background. See Jesus hiding up there? Okay, just so you know. Anyway, the resurrection. Wait, well, I just didn't know if you'd see him, and I want to make sure you see that he's up there. Okay, the resurrection of Jesus is often seen as a profound spiritual event that symbolizes renewal, transformation, and victory over darkness. Many believers interpret it as a reminder that life is not just about physical existence, but also about spiritual awakening and growth. Others view it as an invitation to personal transformation. Just as Jesus rose from the dead, individuals can rise above struggles, doubts, and hardships to embrace a new sense of purpose and faith. And remember, Jesus always said, I and the Father are one, which meant he was one with God, which we are all one with God. And I want it as awful as it was with Jesus' crucifixion, for anybody to do that to another human being is horrible. But I want to tell you a little story that Sylvia Browne wrote in her book. I don't know if you remember Sylvia Browne, but she was a famous psychic. And she wrote this book, and she talked about Jesus' crucifixion. And Pontius Pilate called him in before all this happened because his wife followed Jesus. She loved the teachings of Jesus, and she said, you better not kill him. You're going to get it. You just don't you do it. So he said, I'm in this rough place because I have to do something. And he said, unfortunately, it's going to be really rough on you, but we are not going to kill you. And so what happened was, he had to go through all the whipping and everything. And they picked that Friday and that hour because by 3 o'clock, according to their faith, they had to really get him down from the crucifixion. He had to be dead by then. So anyway, what they did, they put him up there, and it was painful. And remember the story where they put a sponge with vinegar in his mouth? That was really something to help him knock him out, some kind of a medication or a drug. Now, this is according to Sylvia. I'm not saying Dr. Laura. But I love the story. So anyway, they took him down, and the soldier that was in charge, they told him where to poke him so he would bleed a little bit, but not to go all the way in, just go in enough to cut, and that, and then he'd look like he's dead because he took that drugs. Anyway, and then Mary, his mom and Mary Magdalene, they were all there waiting for him, and they took him into the tomb, and that's where they cleaned him up. Now, his uncle he was in trades. He had a huge boat, and that's also how Jesus traveled around as a child and studied with the Essenes and stuff, and learned all these different spiritual stuff that he came back and taught the people. Anyway, they cleaned him up. They got him. He was still alive. They took him on the ship, and he went to France. And they had, I know, pretty nice vacation once you healed. But anyway, that was the story she said. And I thought I love that story that he then had a life with Mary Magdalene, and they have children. And I remember in one of my book studies when I had the Soul Sisters, somebody talked, and they brought a thing with some proof that he was there. I don't know. But anyway, the bottom line is Jesus, remember, was a great teacher that taught us about love and about oneness and how we are all one with God. And that's what we focus on, that we are all one together. Okay. So our talk today is, where are you hiding your eggs? And I just think that's cute, because think about Easter when you were little, how they would hide, or if we had children, how we would hide the eggs for the kids, how excited they would get. My son lives in Temecula, and they have up there, they close off the park, a huge, and I don't know how they do it, but they have all these eggs. They're probably the plastic ones that you can't get real ones very much. And anyway, they have them filled with candy and stuff. And those little kids go out there with their baskets running, and it's so adorable to see. And so Easter is a beautiful time of celebration. So our question, though, is, where are you hiding your eggs? Okay? So from a spiritual aspect, Easter eggs could represent hidden wisdom, small miracles or moments of joy waiting to be discovered, unexpected insights, little sparks of curiosity that lead you down new paths. Stop and think, where do you like to find or hide your Easter eggs in life? You know, if you look back on your life, I was sharing with one of our congregants today how she was going through something, and you know, I always talk about Big Laura. You know, Big Laura will give me ideas, you know, like inspiration to do things, or say, don't do that, you know, or something. But each one of us has this divine awareness within us that will guide you. And maybe you go through a really awful thing happens in your life, you know, that's painful, and you go, oh my God, my life sucks, or something like that. I've heard some of you say this. Anyway, but many times those things lead you down a different path that you wouldn't have taken, but for that thing that basically woke you up and said, this isn't working for me, I need to make a change. And you make that change, and your life goes, oh my God, but for that, when you look back, I would not be where I am today. So think about that. Think about your little Easter eggs in life. What little nuggets come into your life that you weren't even expecting? And maybe it didn't come in the way you expected it to. God knows I wasn't expecting a sister when I was 18 years old, you know, but it was good. And in fact, when I went to the hospital with my mom, when my mom was going through labor, and then I got, you know, but I didn't get to see her right then, and I went up to the window where they show all the babies, and I go, and the lady goes, oh, look at that baby. She had all kinds of hair, even on her ears. Sorry. Sorry, Tracy. Anyway, they go, look at that baby. I go, that's my baby. Isn't she cute? And they looked at me, that's you just had a baby. And I go, you know. Anyway, I wasn't hiding my Easter eggs. I was sharing them. You know, I wanted to show what a beautiful little baby we had and what a joy it was. So I like this one. I swear it's like you guys want to be found. Look at that egg hiding who it is. How beautiful. Hiding, you know, and those other eggs. And he's making it feel guilty, like, well, yeah, I do, kind of. You know, so what don't hide who you are. Show that love. Be that love in everything you do. Remember that. Remember those little nuggets. Remember that. Look for those hidden eggs. They're there. They're waiting for you. And be the reason that someone smiles today. All right? Be that reason every day why someone smiles today. You know, we should all go through life. You know, I remember, I don't know what was going on. I was in first grade at St. Mary's Catholic Church in Michigan, and I didn't get anything for Easter. And I remember we were driving back from Mass, And my dad said, don't tell anybody you didn't get anything. And in my head, I'm thinking, I don't want anybody to know that, you know. And so the next year, and I don't know if they were having financial issues. I didn't, you know, I was too young to know. And it was like, okay, you know, whatever. Anyway, the next year they got me the huge Easter basket with, you know, a little piano thing and all kinds of stuff. So, you know, you never know, but always treat everybody with love. Don't hold anything against anybody. Look at that little bunny. Love, love, love. That's what we came here for. That's who we are. That's what the master teacher Jesus was all about. Love. Let's resurrect from anything that's bothering us, that's hurting us, anything that's negative. Let's focus on the love. It's so interesting.
Well, thank you very much, Dr. Laura. A little bit of history there. Very, very nice. It's kind of funny how your talk and our talks, even though we have no idea what we're going to be talking about, yes, we have the subject matter, but where we go with it is on our own journey, but how it all really meshes together. So mine, it's all a mind game. How we feel, what we're thinking about creates our reality. And that's one of the cornerstones of our philosophy is that our mind is always working with spirit. There's no designated time that we have to set aside to pray. Every thought that we have is in itself a prayer of what we want to experience. Well, I had a week, and it wasn't the greatest of weeks. There was a lot of stuff to do, and I was just kind of in a funk. So I was thinking that I was stuck. You know, I think I'm stuck. I'm sure that some of you have had those type of thoughts before. You know, I don't know what to do. I don't know where to go. I don't know how to overcome this situation. I don't know who to talk to. You know, I've just got to deal with it myself. What is the fact of this statement? I think I'm stuck. Is it the stuck part? No. It's I think. That is the cornerstone of that statement. I think I'm stuck. So Spirit says yes. I will show you opportunities to be stuck and be stuck very well because I've got a very good mind. But when I realize that how I think about myself is creating that reality, again, there's no victims here. There's only the results of my thinking. Because I wasn't having a very good day, I wasn't I wasn't in alignment. Let's just put it that way. I wasn't in alignment with Spirit. I went off course, made a sin, made a mistake. But when I realized that statement, the fact is, I think, I need to change my thinking. Manifesting God's perfection. Holmes encouraged individuals to roll away the stone of uncertainty and find the resurrected divine perfection within themselves. So I like the fact that you talked about the rolling away of the stone. I thought that was such a great segue into what I'm talking about. And it truly is that stone, that blockage that we have to where we think that we are separate from Spirit, from God, from our source. When we can roll that away and realize that the divinity that was already is the birthright of each of us and come from that standpoint and sit in that calm like we do here on Sunday service when we go into that meditative area and just sit and just allow life to come and flow through us, we get the right answer. We find the solution to that problem that was keeping us in bondage or keeping us entombed in uncertainty. When you know that you are the action of Spirit, that stone always gets rolled away. When I can see the divine perfection within myself, I will begin to see it everywhere. Now, Dr. Laura's talked about Easter eggs, and so I'm going to be talking about Easter eggs, but on a totally different avenue. I like movies, and I like TV shows, and you may know about Easter. Well, am I getting ahead of myself? Oh, let's just go to the next slide. I think I'm getting ahead of myself. Have you heard the term Easter eggs? Yeah, see, there you go. Have you heard the terms Easter eggs? Yes. Thank you for participating. Maybe in TV shows or video games, maybe even in movies. So, many of you know that I have a Jeep, and did you know that Jeep is very well known for Easter eggs? Yes. I'm going to show you a few. Right there in the upper left-hand corner, that's my floor mat. And as I zoom in, you see there's a dinosaur embedded into the floor mat. Because that's with Moab and being up in Utah and all the deserts and stuff like that, so they incorporated that into the Jeeps and their floor mats. Next, in the center, that's the headlight. Right there at the center of the headlight is the grill to a Jeep. Something, a little Easter egg. You know, I'm sure people have had Jeeps, and they probably have never even noticed that. Well, if you have a Liberty or one of those, like my son, they're not a CJ. Then next, the cowl up there. Can you see the flip-flops? Now, you might, if you don't know, I love flip-flops. My wife can't stand that I should have worn them today. But I love flip-flops, and the reason why they are there is one of the designers of Jeep was known for always wearing flip-flops. So to honor him, when he made his transition, they embedded that symbol into the cowl there to honor him. Another nice little Easter egg. Then in the corner, you see the CJ3, the original, what inspired the whole Jeep becoming a civilian product as opposed to a military product. So again, the Easter egg right there. And then finally, right there at the back of, I have a Gladiator, which is the truck version of Jeep. The Heart 419, that is the area code where the plant is, up in, I think it's Michigan. But again, these are Easter eggs. They're always there. And I know people that have Jeeps didn't even know that they had them. So what Easter eggs are always right in front of you that you never notice. The point is to take time, to be still, to contemplate, and not just see that I've got to get to the grocery store, but to open your vision wide and see the Easter eggs along your path, the things you have to do in that particular day. Because I know that when I was in that ditch, I couldn't see anything, but as soon as I opened my heart and my mind and my eyes and I saw the beauty around me, I was able to get out of that funk. So look for the Easter eggs in your everyday life to allow you to realize the connection with Spirit and that divine nature that you have. Find the Easter eggs within your own life. When you focus on that, you will realize your ditch isn't that deep. And so ends your lesson.
Oh my God, I always say, God, I got to follow all that. So I stand up here because I'm short, and if I'm there, you guys in the back can't see me. Otherwise, I'd be down there, but didn't quite turn out that way as an adult. I was just 5 foot tall. Anyways, so here comes another direction, another avenue. You, like an Easter egg, you had no idea we're going down this road now. The history of the Easter egg hunt. Anybody know the history?
Nope.
Not one person. You do? Oh. So for those of you who are familiar with me, I always like to know the answers and the history behind stuff. It just helps me get a deeper understanding of life and what's going on with stuff I'm going to talk about. So what I found out about the Easter egg hunt is in the 16th century, Martin Luther created this wonderful game for the men to hide the Easter eggs for the women and the children to find. And the Easter egg represents the tomb of Jesus, and the egg itself represents the new life that's born from there. And as I stand up here, I don't understand his mind, how he thought of that. It's like, how did that come to be that the egg is the tomb of Jesus? But you know what? I have to stand back and just say, okay, it makes sense. Sort of. But but I think that's really cool. And for those of you that don't know me, I was raised in a Jewish household. And we didn't teach Christianity, and my parents really didn't encourage us to learn about it. It was just we were Jewish, and that's what we learned. But there was something inside me that said, there's something to that Jesus. There was something about him that resonated with me, right? Oh yeah, I never said it out loud, by the way. Never said it out loud. I would just go, oh my God, there's just something so cool. Well, and he is a Jew, so hello. He is a Jew. He wasn't born Christian. He was Jewish, so to speak. Anyways, so this holiday is actually one of my favorite holidays because the symbols that are associated with it, the cross, the resurrection, the crucifixion, they are so deeply spiritually enriching. And I know the whole story of Jesus is, especially the crucifixion to the resurrection, that's a real somber time. But yet, it is so spiritually fulfilling that these symbols for me, as a Jewish person, are so meaningful because to me, this is what life is all about for us, to navigate the challenges, the changes of life. This Easter gives us everything that we need to know. So the egg to me, I was thinking about the egg. What does it mean to me? And it means what classically means to us that we're taught. The eternality of life, wholeness, the universe, and at the end of the day, the truth. And the truth to me is that we are all spiritual beings here on this plane of existence, having our different lives. But the truth is we are one. That's how I see it. We are one in humanity, spiritually, and there is no separation. And this idea that we're bringing to you today about where you're hiding your eggs, to me, where are you hiding the truth? Or where are you hiding from the truth? Because it's right there, and I believe that within each one of us, we know what that truth is. We know what it feels like. When you hear in this center that we are one and that you are perfect as you are, there's something deep inside that perks up a little bit and says, something that's being said makes truth to me on a very deep level. So my question to you, and to myself as well, is, why do I hide from the truth, and how can I bring that to the surface so I'm in alignment with it? So where are you hiding your eggs? So just to give you a little preview of what happens behind the scenes when we're thinking of a talk, the three of us. So Dr. Laura, this came from Big Laura, because last week I said, you guys, we have to find some sort of talk title to start to navigate through. And she says, well, where are you hiding your eggs? And we all kind of just sat with it. And then later on in the week, Dr. Laura looks at me and she goes, man, she goes, I don't have any eggs inside of me to hide from. And I thought, and I looked at her, because Dr. Laura and I are of a certain point in life where we don't have any eggs inside of ourselves anymore. And I never thought of it until she said something. I'm like, it's not something I think of every day, really. Actually, very well, I don't, but that's a whole other talk. But I thought, in our lives, there are things we maybe had at one time that we don't have anymore. There are people in our lives that we had at one time, but we don't have anymore. But the truth is, whether something's in our life or not, if it touched us, if it was important to us, it left an imprint for us. And so even though I have none of these eggs, I have the egg of eternality. I have the knowing of truth that I am one with all life. That can never be taken away from me. Even as this body leaves me and I go to another realm, I'm still going to have that wholeness paradigm inside of my mind. I'm going to know that, as we all are. So Ernest Holmes said, we need spiritual experience. And boy, Easter to me delivers. I mean, isn't that why you all are here? You want a spiritual experience. You want to feel something in your soul, in your heart, that's really beyond words, that's beyond concepts, something that touches you at the heart level. That's why our tagline is changing lives one heart at a time, because we know that the heart is the key. We know that the heart and opening it up is the pathway to finding who we are, that authentic self, To open up the heart really redeems us to see life through new eyes. And that's, to me, what Easter is about, a spiritual experience. And these symbols, the crucifixion and the resurrection, they afford us a spiritual experience if we look at this whole thing in a whole new way. Ernest goes on to say, spiritual experience is deep, calm, and self-assertive. You'll notice there's no dogma there. It's about something inside of us that we want to feel and awaken to. It is the result of actually realizing that presence, capital P, meaning God or love, whatever works for you for that higher power. To realize that that presence, which binds all of us together in one complete whole, is right where we are all the time. This is the spiritual experience for us to embody, to engage with. It's the egg. It is the egg in my mind. So the cross is a really big symbol in Christianity. And I think the cross is an amazing spiritual symbol of what Easter is all about. I'm going to take it to a metaphysical place. So with the cross, we've got the horizontal, right? And the horizontal is about the relative world that we live in, the human world, so to speak. You know, there's a beginning and there's an end. But this horizontal is just one aspect of who we are. What I love about Christianity, it said, wake up, people, you've got a vertical. You've got a vertical, and that's your spirituality. That is your divine nature. That is what we are here to wake up to rise into, because that opens our eyes to what the truth is about us. The human and the divine come together. A lot of people think that New Thought teaches us to not pay attention to the divine, to just go to God, to just disavow yourself from this whole physical reality and just see spirit. No, bring it together because it's one thing. It's one thing. You need them both. Because we're here, you know, I don't know the answer why we're here. I have ideas, I have speculation, but I couldn't tell you this is the exact reason. The only thing I know is I'm here to have some sort of an experience, and I want to do it right. I want to do it with integrity. I want to do it with love. That's what I know. But it is about this, the horizontal and the vertical, coming together. And Easter teaches us, and the whole Christianity philosophy or religion teaches us we are spirit. Wake up to that, because life is going to get a whole lot better when you know that. And then there's the resurrection. I love the resurrection. Oh my God, I really do. Like crazy love it. Because this, to me, this is where the magic happens. This is where the healing comes forward. When we raise our mind from sense consciousness, from the horizontal, from being so engaged and so overwhelmed by senses and by the effects of this world and the conditions and the circumstances and this and that that is here, when we can raise our mind from all of that and come into the vertical, into our spiritual consciousness, game changer, game changer. Our faith is restored. Our faith is restored. We feel differently. We see possibilities where we didn't before because we were stuck here with what we're looking at instead of what is all around us, which is infinite possibility for change, for good, for life, for the eggs to come out. Easter teaches us how to navigate through life's challenges. It really does. The story of Jesus, right? All of that betrayal, the harm, the punishment, all of that really hard stuff. Everybody in this room, including myself, we've been there in some degree in our own lives. We've been betrayed. We've been heartbroken. We've been taken down. We all have. It's just part of life. But what does Easter tells us? Instead of being constricted and seeing no solution when the pain and the sorrow comes to us, instead of getting stuck in the tomb, we expand by recognizing the presence of spirit and rising into it, becoming vertical. This is the story for all of us to live into when we're walking through something that's really uncomfortable and we see no way out. Rise into the vertical, resurrect ourselves. It's not just for Easter. So a long time ago, I guess it's not that long ago, we had an assistant minister. Her name was Dr. Maxine. Anybody remember Dr. Maxine? Yeah. She's very near and dear to me. She taught me how to be a practitioner. She kind of grew me into what I'm doing today. And she used to do a Good Friday service. And part of the service was she did like the last words of Jesus. And so I was reading those last words and I thought, oh, the good stuff is the last 11 words. The last 11 words. And I know those of you who are into numbers, 11's a big one, right? 11's, 1's, 111. It's a big magical, mystical number. And so I thought, those 11 words, that's it. It is finished. Father, into your hands I commit my spirit. To me, this says it all. When we're going through the trials and tribulations of our lives, and we've had enough because the horizontal is not solving our problems. It's not giving us the answers that we need. It's not giving us the relief. When this horizontal is not working anymore, we have to say, it is finished. This is not working. I'm not finding what I need. Time to resurrect and find our spiritual wholeness inside of ourselves. Father, into your hands I commit my spirit. This is what it's about. Finding your oneness as spirit. Finding your divinity. Recognizing that there is a greater life force that you are. An egg, if you like. The missing egg. The missing egg is knowing who we are as intimately, infinitely intertwined expressions of the divine. When we find that egg, things change. And to me, that is the gift of Easter. So resurrect yourselves, not just on Easter, every day. Find your eggs and enjoy your day. Thank you for listening to us today.